YouTube, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy ET, man. Y'all know what to do. If you rocking with me, y'all already know what to do. Got a good story for y'all today. We ain't got a lot of time, so let's get into it. We can talking about Dulce, New Mexico today. Yeah, Dulce, New Mexico. Um, I don't know if y'all know where that's at, but it's not too far from the Colorado border. Right on the Colorado border of New Mexico and Colorado. Um, Nothing but land out there. Hundreds and hundreds of miles of land. So we're gonna be talking about that today, man, because it's supposedly a secret military underground base under Dulce, New Mexico. I know y'all probably heard the stories. These stories date back to the 1930s. So dating all the way back to the 1930s, people have been, citizens have been seeing strange activity in the sky over Dulce, New Mexico. So let's talk about it for a minute. So let's fast forward. Since everything was going on with David Wilcock, I thought I'd make this video to give y'all another example of a whistleblower who came out and later, you know, passed away, mysteriously. So let's talk about it for a minute. You got Dulce, New Mexico. Okay, Phil Schneider. My UFO community. My UFO community. I know y'all heard of Phil Schneider. He came out way back in the 1980s. He been speaking on this situation since the 1980s. So let's talk about him for a minute. So Phil Schneider came out. He claimed that he worked on secret underground military bases. He helped build them. All over. All over the world. And he said when they built these bases, of course they didn't use shovels, digging dirt. He said they had a special technology that can melt the rock, melt everything, the dirt, the rock, and and then they can shape it into a tunnel. So it was a lot easier. It's a lot faster. They had this special technology to do this back then. This is what he claimed, right? So he said during one operation in Dulce, New Mexico, they was digging out a tunnel, and while they were digging the tunnel, not digging the tunnel, but forming the tunnel with the technology that they had, he said they noticed a strange smell, a strong smell, nasty smell, and it's not just him down there at this time. It's a lot of U.S., not a lot, but a few, over 50 U.S. soldiers too, to make sure everything goes smooth, nothing crazy happen, for protection and everything. So he said they are with him. So they noticed the smell. He said when they looked up, they seen an alien being, standing at the tunnel, end of the tunnel, looking at them like, what y'all doing? You know what I'm saying? So an alien being standing at the end of the tunnel. He said all the soldiers grabbed their weapons. They got their hands on their weapons. They're ready to go. They don't know what this being wants. They don't know where it came from. Nothing like that. So they look up. They see the alien being. According to Phil Schneider, one of the soldiers, I think, fired on the being. And after that, I think he said it was more than one of them. It was more than one of them. So they fired on one of the alien beings. And he said after that, the alien being waved his hand in front of his chest, something like that. This is what he said. If y'all seen this interview, y'all know. After the alien being waved his hand in front of his chest, a light beam came out, some kind of beam, and it just demolished over 50 soldiers, 50 alien soldiers. Just took them out, just like that. The reason he said he survived, he said it was an elevator that they used to come down, all the way down. you know, deep, deep, deep under the ground. They had an elevator. He said one of the soldiers actually saved his life because he pushed Phil Schneider back in the elevator, hit the button for it to go back up to the surface, and this alien, you know, while it still was shooting this beam out of his chest, it killed that, you know, soldier that helped save Phil Schneider at that time. You know, so they sent the elevator, and before they sent, but this is an important part of his story. He claims before they sent the elevator back up, he was hit with this beam, and he showed it. I know y'all seen the video. He showed it. It knocked off a few of his fingers, knocked off a few of his toes. He showed it. You can go back and look it up. You know, the reason, like I said, the reason I'm speaking on this situation is because what recently happened with David Wilcock not too long ago. So Phil Schneider said that the beam knocked off a few of his fingers, and his fingers are missing. He showed it on TV. You know, he showed it on YouTube. He showed it. You know, because he wanted everybody to know about this story. So he showed it. You know, he said, you know, you could see his fingers are gone, toes gone. You know, like they've been severed. He said this comes from the beam that the alien let out of his chest to kill the soldiers, and it hit him with it before he was lifted up into in the elevator to the surface. So when he came out in the 1980s, this happened around the late 1970s. I think 78 or 79. So later on, Phil Schneider came out and started speaking on the subject and speaking on what happened, you know, underground in Dulce, New Mexico. You know, y'all forgive me. I'm not reading no script, not doing nothing. I'm just going off memory. You know, and I was just speaking on what I remember from what happened in these situations. No teleprompter, nothing like that. So forgive me if I stutter a little bit. But if you're still rocking with me, y'all know what to do. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, man. We're trying to go live. We got 400 subscribers, over 400 subscribers. Y'all know what to do. So it sends them back. The elevator sent them back to the surface. He survived the situation. Over 50 soldiers lose their life. Over 50, 60. I think 60 soldiers lose their life from these beings that they ran into underground. So later on, he comes out. Phil Schneider come out and he starts speaking on the subject, and he know that you could tell he knows that he probably shouldn't be speaking on this subject. A lot of people don't believe, you know, everybody don't believe Phil Schneider and what he said about this battle that took place under the base, under the ground of New Mexico, Dulce, New Mexico. Not everybody believe him, but the reason he said he was able to work on these type of projects is because his father was also involved in these type of building these underground military bases. So that's how he was able to work on these secret underground military bases. So fast forward 1996, Phil Schneider is found dead inside of his home with a some type of surgical cord wrapped around his neck. You know, he was older, so he had health problems. So he, you know, he had two surgical tubes, you know, connected to his body. He was his one of his surgical tubes was wrapped around his neck and connected to his bedpost, where it looked like he strangled himself. Very suspicious. His bedpost, not nowhere high up, with feet hanging. You know, you can clearly see he hung himself. Nothing like that. He can barely move. I think he was even in a wheelchair at the time, so he can barely even move around. So he was found hanging from his bedpost, days later, not right away. Someone found them days later. Um, they called the paramedics and they came, pronounced them deceased. Very, very strange. Very strange. That's why I talk about this case today, because same thing that happened with David Wilcock is strange. But this is another situation where Phil Schneider, a whistleblower, came out, spoke on alien beings, secret underground military base, and soldiers losing their life. And he passed away not too long after that, strangely. So y'all let me know in the comment section what y'all think about that. But I got a question. So y'all know with these US soldiers, everybody who lost their life, if this situation is true, do y'all think that how were they able to keep all of those families quiet? Do y'all think these US soldiers who passed away in this situation, they had family, right? They had to have some type of family, or y'all think they really didn't have any family and nobody really is asking, are the government just says, hey, they passed away in battle, you know, um, serving their country, and leave it at that. We can't tell y'all really what project they was working on, it's secret. Is that a way for the government to keep this stuff covered up? Because that's the only way really I can see it, because you have all of these soldiers who lost their life in this one alien incident, and that's just one. We don't even know how many of these took place. These incidents took place over time. It could be hundreds. So so how are they able to keep all these families quiet? That's just a question that I have. And do y'all think the government was involved with Phil Snyder's, you know, death, or do y'all think he just? Do y'all think all these UFO whistleblowers just go crazy at some point? Do y'all think they're all crazy? They go crazy after a while, or do y'all think the government is hunting them down and playing mind games with them and making them do these type of things to themselves? I don't know. It's just a question that I have, man. But y'all know what time it is, man. Appreciate y'all watching the video. I ain't gonna keep y'all too long. I just want to know y'all thoughts on that, man. Y'all know what to do. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. I'll be back with another one. We ain't stopping. I ain't found aliens yet. We ain't found out if they're real or they fake. All my UFO, alien, Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, where are y'all at? Let me know. Is this real or is it all a hoax?